Today we're going to talk about the saints. We now have everything we need. If we were in a circle today, you would be able to see all of your friends. Did you know that there are more people in this circle than you can see? They can come to join us from the whole story of the Christian people. When we look around, we can see lessons about all of these people and many more. Many of these people the church remembers as saints. They are special friends who loved God and people very well. Today we will remember just 12 of them, 6 boys and 6 girls. And here they are. Here is the circle of the church. We don't know exactly where the months are on this, but we do know that there are 12 months and the church remembers many saints for each month. We will just remember one for each month today. I wonder if there's anyone in your family that has a birthday in January. We can see where January is on the circle because it is always right after Christmas. Here is one of the saints we remember in January. It is Saint Thomas. Saint Thomas who thought for God. In February, the saint we remember is Saint Valentine, who loved for God. In March, one of the saints we like to remember is Saint Patrick. Saint Patrick traveled for God. If you had a birthday in April, one of the saints that you would remember is Saint Catherine of Siena, who taught people how to be fair for God. Birthdays in May remember the Saint Julian of Norwich, who was quiet and wise for God. In June, the church remembers Saint Columba of Scotland, who loved books and people for God. In July, the church remembers Saint Elizabeth of Portugal, who was peaceful and made peace for God. In August, the church remembers Saint Augustine, who was restless and found rest in God. September. Here is someone the church remembers in September, Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who cared for the sick and poor for God. In October, the church remembers Saint Teresa of Avila, who was strict but laughed for God. And in November, the church remembers Saint Margaret of Scotland, who cared for her own people and for her country. In December, we remember Saint Nicholas, who gave gifts for God. Now, each of these saints lived in a certain place and time. You can still visit the places where they lived. Saint Thomas, who thought for God, lived in Italy. Here is the flag of Italy. Saint Valentine, who loved for God, also lived in Italy. They shared the same flag. Saint Patrick, who traveled for God, lived most of his life in Ireland. Here's the flag of Ireland. Saint Catherine of Siena, who showed people how to be fair for God, also lived in Italy. St. Julian of Norwich, who was quiet and wise for God, lived in England. England is part of the United Kingdom. Here is the flag of the United Kingdom. St. Columba of Scotland, who loved books and people for God, lived most of his life in Scotland, which is part of the United Kingdom. He also uses the flag of the United Kingdom. St. Elizabeth of Portugal, who was peaceful and made peace for God, lived in Portugal. Here is the Portuguese flag. St. Augustine, who was restless and found rest in God, lived in the north of Africa, in what is now Algeria. Here is the flag of Algeria. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who cared for the sick and poor for God, lived most of her life in Calcutta of India. Here is the flag of India. St. Teresa of Avila, who was strict but laughed for God, lived in Spain. Here is the flag for Spain. St. Margaret of Scotland, who cared for her own children and the people of her country for God, lived most of her life in Scotland, part of the United Kingdom. Here is the flag for the United Kingdom. St. Nicholas, who gave gifts for God, lived in Myra, which is now in Turkey. Here is the flag for Turkey. You can use this list and think about where all of these people lived. Let's find out more about each one of these saints lived. Here is a timeline. The timeline shows when the great explorers of history lived. Here's one of the first great explorers, Alexander the Great. It says he lived from 334 BC. That's before Jesus Christ was born. They think he was one of the first people from Europe to travel all the way to Asia. He took his whole army with him. The saints are also on this line. They came after Jesus was born, much later. They are on this line because they were explorers too. Sometimes they traveled to new places or discovered new things about God and about people. So as we think about this story, I wonder if there's a part you liked best, or if there's a part that's most important, or a part that especially interested you. I wonder if we could leave any of these saints out. I wonder if you, with your family, can learn to find out where each of these saints came from on a map.